The evening air was thick with the scent of fallen leaves and the faint hint of wood smoke from neighbors' chimneys. I sat in our dimly lit living room, my gaze drifting from the flickering candle on the table to the window, where shadows danced against the glass. Outside, the world was cloaked in darkness, an uncharacteristic blackout sweeping through our small Vermont town. It felt as though time had stopped, leaving only silence and the distant rustle of leaves. My mind wandered back to earlier that day. The mundane rhythm of life had settled into a predictable pattern, one I no longer found comforting. The conversations with my husband had become routine, filled with pleasantries and obligations rather than genuine connection. He was often engrossed in his work, and I found myself lost in thoughts of what could have been. I had once envisioned a life filled with passion and adventure, but reality had tethered me to a life that felt increasingly empty. As I sat there, I heard laughter, soft and playful, drifting through the darkness. It was my son's laughter, echoing from somewhere within the house. In that moment, it pierced through my solitude like a beam of light breaking through clouds. Memories flooded back, afternoons spent baking cookies together or evenings playing board games on rainy nights. The laughter reminded me of simpler times when joy felt abundant. I closed my eyes for a moment, allowing myself to be enveloped by the sound. The darkness outside and within became less suffocating, it offered an odd sense of freedom. I could escape into this shared space of laughter and warmth without judgment or expectation. The flickering candlelight cast playful shadows on the walls as if inviting me to join in on some secret dance. "Mom?" His voice broke through my reverie, pulling me back into reality. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I replied softly, trying to mask the weight pressing down on my heart. He appeared at the doorway, silhouetted against the faint glow of candlelight. There was something about his presence, youthful yet familiar, that stirred emotions within me I hadn't acknowledged before. He stepped closer, his face illuminated by the soft light. "Want to play a game?" he asked with an enthusiasm that reminded me of days long past. "Sure," I said hesitantly, feeling a strange flutter in my stomach as he settled beside me on the couch. We began to play a card game we both enjoyed, but as we laughed and teased each other over missed moves and lucky draws, something shifted in the air between us. The blackout transformed our living room into an intimate sanctuary where time seemed irrelevant. The outside world faded away, it was just us against the backdrop of flickering shadows and shared laughter. My heart raced, not from fear but from an unexpected thrill that coursed through me like electricity. As we played on, our hands brushed occasionally over cards or popcorn bowls, a fleeting touch that sent ripples through my skin. In those moments, every brush felt charged with unspoken words and emotions that lay just beneath the surface as feelings I had buried deep down for far too long. Then came a burst of laughter so genuine it almost startled me back to reality, a reminder that this connection felt both exhilarating and dangerous all at once. The blackout stretched into hours as we continued playing games under candlelight. Time lost its meaning amidst shared memories and laughter that echoed warmly in our confined space. Each moment felt like an escape from reality, a reprieve from responsibilities and expectations that loomed over us during daylight hours. But as night deepened around us, so did an unsettling awareness. This intimacy was fleeting and fragile like candle flames flickering dangerously close to extinguishing at any moment. Suddenly, there was silence, the kind that settles heavily after joy has ebbed away, and we both paused mid-game as if sensing something unspoken hanging between us in those shadows. "I should probably go check on Dad," he said finally after what felt like an eternity spent staring into each other's eyes across our makeshift battlefield of cards scattered between us. "Yeah," I replied quietly, feeling an emptiness settle where warmth had thrived moments before. He stood up slowly while I remained seated on the couch, a chasm widening between us now filled with unsaid words lingering heavily in air thickened by tension born out of newfound closeness tinged with uncertainty about what lay ahead when morning broke upon this fragile bubble we'd created together tonight. As he turned away towards his bedroom door leading out into darkened halls beyond our sanctuary illuminated only by dying flames casting long shadows across walls adorned with family photos capturing happier times frozen forever in time, I couldn't help but feel both relieved yet hollowed out inside knowing tomorrow would bring back harsh realities waiting just beyond thresholds separating us from innocence lost forevermore amidst rising sun bringing light upon secrets hidden deep within hearts yearning for connection long denied. The darkness lingered around me even after he'd disappeared down hallway leading away. It enveloped everything around me like heavy fog rolling slowly over hills surrounding town below where life resumed its mundane course untouched by magic woven together here tonight under candlelit skies twinkling above. The silence stretched between us like a taut string, vibrating with unspoken words. I could still feel the warmth of his presence lingering in the air, a ghostly reminder of our moment together. The flickering candlelight danced on the walls, casting shadows that seemed to whisper secrets I dared not acknowledge. I sat there, grappling with the weight of my emotions, the guilt clawing at my insides like an unwelcome intruder. He had stepped into my world so effortlessly, igniting a spark I had long thought extinguished. In those fleeting moments of darkness, it felt as if we had forged an unbreakable bond, one that defied the boundaries set by society and blood. Yet as the night deepened, so did my unease. What were we becoming? The very thought sent shivers down my spine. The blackout continued to stretch on, wrapping our home in an embrace of uncertainty. I could hear the distant sounds of the town outside, children laughing, parents calling out to one another as they navigated their own evening rituals. Meanwhile, here I sat in this cocoon of flickering light and shadow, trapped between two worlds, one filled with mundane obligations and another pulsing with forbidden possibility. Mom? His voice broke through my reverie, pulling me back into the present. Are you okay? I turned to him, meeting his gaze filled with concern and something else, something deeper that made my heart race. I'm fine, I replied too quickly, trying to dismiss the tumult swirling within me. He stepped closer, drawn in by some magnetic force neither of us could comprehend. You seem lost. Lost was an understatement. I felt like a ship adrift in stormy seas without a compass or anchor. Just thinking about everything, I managed to say. About what? He pressed gently. About how life can change so quickly, I said softly. How easy it is to lose track of what matters. He nodded slowly as if weighing my words carefully before responding. Yeah, things can get complicated. Complicated was putting it mildly. My heart raced as he leaned closer still. The air between us thickened with tension, a charged silence that spoke louder than any words ever could. My mind screamed warnings while my heart urged me forward. In that moment, surrounded by candlelight and shadows dancing around us like specters from our pasts, something shifted within me, a desire for connection that overshadowed all else. I reached out instinctively and brushed my fingers against his arm. He flinched slightly but didn't pull away. Instead, he took another step closer until our faces were mere inches apart. Mom, his voice trailed off as if searching for words that might never come. And then it happened, an impulse so strong it felt almost predestined. We kissed. It was soft at first, a tentative exploration filled with confusion and longing, but soon it deepened into something more fervent as if we were both trying to reclaim pieces of ourselves lost along the way. The world outside faded entirely. There was only this moment suspended in time where nothing else mattered but our shared breath mingling in the dim light. As quickly as it began, it ended, a sudden realization crashing over me like icy water dousing flames flickering brightly just moments before. What had we done? A rush of guilt flooded through me like poison seeping into open wounds. How could I let this happen? How could I betray everything I held dear? We both pulled away abruptly. Shame hung heavy in the air between us now, an invisible barrier woven from threads of regret and fear. He looked at me wide-eyed, vulnerability etched across his features mirrored my own turmoil perfectly. I shouldn't have, he started but faltered under the weight of what we'd just shared, the gravity of our actions settling heavily upon us both. No, I whispered hoarsely as reality crashed down around us once more, the warmth from earlier replaced by an icy chill creeping into every crevice of my heart where hope had briefly bloomed. What do we do now? He asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper yet piercing through my foggy thoughts like a beacon guiding lost ships homeward. I opened my mouth to respond but found no words came forth, only silence greeted him instead. A silence pregnant with possibilities yet tinged with despair over what lay ahead now that lines had been crossed irrevocably between mother and son under cover darkness cloaked by shadows dancing flickering flames cast upon walls adorned with memories long forgotten. The candle burned low, its light waning just as hope began slipping away into nothingness once more. The dawn awaited just beyond horizon's edge readying itself to unveil truths hidden beneath layers carefully constructed over years spent pretending everything was fine when clearly nothing ever truly was. As dawn's first light crept through windows casting pale rays across surfaces once shrouded in darkness revealing stark realities waiting patiently beyond thresholds separating two worlds forever changed, I wondered if this would mark end or beginning for us both. The first rays of dawn slipped through the curtains, casting a soft glow that illuminated the room. Shadows retreated into corners, revealing the remnants of a night that had transformed everything. The candle flickered weakly on the table, its wax pooling like my thoughts, softening, melting, and yet solidifying into something unrecognizable. I turned to look at him, still asleep on the couch where we had shared whispered secrets and confessions. His face was serene, untouched by the complexities of our reality. In that moment, I felt a surge of affection mixed with an undercurrent of dread. How could something so tender feel so wrong? I wanted to reach out and brush my fingers against his cheek but hesitated, aware of the fragile line we had crossed. The memories of our conversation echoed in my mind. We spoke about dreams lost in the noise of everyday life, about how easy it was to feel invisible in a world that seemed to rush past us without a second glance. And then there was that moment when our lips met, a fleeting brush that ignited something deep within me. It was as if time had paused for just a heartbeat, allowing us to exist in a space where nothing else mattered. But now morning light threatened to expose everything. I could already hear the distant sounds of life outside, birds chirping, cars starting up, and the familiar hum of neighbors beginning their day. The world would awaken soon enough, and with it would come judgment and questions I wasn't ready to face. Anxiety tightened around my chest as I considered what lay ahead. Would he leave quietly before anyone noticed? Or would this be another morning filled with awkward silences and unspoken words? The thought of him slipping away left an ache in my heart. A part of me wanted him to stay, to bask in this newfound connection just a little longer. As if sensing my turmoil, he stirred awake. His eyes fluttered open slowly, adjusting to the light filtering through the window. For a moment, he looked confused, disoriented by sleep and perhaps by our shared experience from the night before. When his gaze met mine, a flicker of recognition passed between us. "Morning," he murmured softly. "Morning," I replied, trying to sound casual despite the weight of everything hanging between us. He sat up slowly and stretched his arms overhead like a cat waking from slumber. The movement drew attention to the contours of his body beneath his shirt, an innocent gesture that sent shivers down my spine. I quickly looked away. It was too easy to get lost in thoughts I shouldn't be having. "What time is it?" he asked as he rubbed his eyes. "Too early," I said lightly but felt the truth behind my words. They were heavy with implications neither of us wanted to address yet. We shared small talk about mundane things, the weather outside and plans for breakfast, but each word felt like an echo in an empty chamber. They lacked substance against what had transpired between us. My mind raced with thoughts about how we had forged this connection amidst darkness but now faced an entirely different reality with daylight breaking through. Then came the moment that shifted everything again, a memory sparked within me as I recalled one summer evening long ago when we had ventured out for ice cream under starlit skies. It had been just us then, no expectations or boundaries, and laughter filled the air like music. It felt pure and uncomplicated compared to what we faced now. "Do you remember that night at the fair?" I asked suddenly, hoping nostalgia could bridge this uncomfortable gap between us. His face lit up at once. Excitement replaced any lingering confusion from moments prior. "Yeah. We rode that terrible Ferris wheel. You were screaming." I laughed softly at his recollection. The carefree joy we once shared felt like a distant memory now overshadowed by what happened last night. "It's funny how things change," I said quietly, glancing down at my hands resting on my lap. He nodded slowly as if weighing each word carefully before speaking again. "Yeah, things change." A silence settled over us then, a heavy pause filled with unspoken truths, and I found myself wishing for darkness once more. It felt safer than confronting what lay ahead in broad daylight. As time slipped by unnoticed amidst our conversation reminiscing about simpler days gone by, anxiety began creeping back into my thoughts like shadows lengthening across walls as sunlight grew brighter outside. What would happen when he left? Would we pretend none of this happened? Would we go back to being mother and son without acknowledging this new thread woven into our relationship? The tension hung thick in the air until finally broke when he stood up abruptly from where he sat on the couch. His movements quickened as if urgency propelled him forward toward some unknown destination beyond these four walls, trapping us inside moments too heavy for either one of us alone bear anymore. "I should probably head home," he said quietly but firmly, a statement laced with finality that sent chills racing down spine even though part knew it was inevitable given circumstances surrounding us both now unfolding before eyes wide open yet unwilling see truth lurking beneath surface layers hiding behind smiles exchanged earlier today amidst laughter shared together only hours ago fading away fast into memory's embrace forever lost. "Yeah," my voice barely escaped my lips. It trembled slightly under pressure mounting inside chest, threatening spill forth emotions swirling around threatening drown me whole if not contained somehow within confines built over years spent pretending everything was fine when clearly nothing ever truly was. He moved toward door leading out into bright world waiting beyond threshold separating two realms forever changed by choices made during those fleeting hours spent together wrapped tightly within darkness embrace offering solace sought after desperately yet fraught consequences, looming large just out sight waiting patiently strike when least expected catch unaware. And just like that, the moment shattered. The fragile bond built upon whispers exchanged under candlelight began unraveling thread by thread until only remnants remained scattered across floor where laughter once echoed joyful sounds filling air now replaced silence heavy laden regret clinging tightly around, hearts refusing let go. The morning light spilled into the room, casting harsh shadows that felt like a stark reminder of reality. I lay still, wrapped in the blanket we had shared, the faint scent of candle wax lingering in the air. The warmth of his body had faded, replaced by an empty space that echoed with unspoken words. I could still hear the laughter from last night, a melody that felt both beautiful and haunting. He had slipped away without a sound, leaving behind only memories and an unsettling sense of loss. As I opened my eyes fully, the glow of daylight seemed to mock me, illuminating all the corners of my life I had tried to ignore. The walls felt closer now, as if they were pressing in on me with every breath. I sat up slowly, pulling the blanket around my shoulders like a shield against the world outside. The drawing he left behind lay on the bedside table, a simple sketch, yet it spoke volumes. Lines and curves formed a shape that resembled not just me but also the essence of what I yearned for: connection, understanding, freedom from this cage of monotony. In that moment, I felt torn between two worlds, the one I inhabited with my husband and the fleeting escape I had tasted in darkness. The thrill of our secret lingered on my skin like a whispering breeze. It was intoxicating yet terrifying. How could something so wrong feel so right? I stood up and approached the drawing, tracing its contours with trembling fingers. It was an image of me smiling, something I hadn't done in ages. My heart sank as reality crashed back in. This was not who I was supposed to be. A mother doesn't cross lines like these. Society's rules were clear about such things. The clock on the wall ticked steadily onward, each second amplifying my dread about facing another day without him. What would happen when night fell again? Would he return? Or would this be another chapter closed before it even began? I shook my head as if trying to dispel thoughts that refused to budge. The weight of guilt settled heavily on my chest, an anchor pulling me deeper into murky waters where clarity was hard to find. My phone buzzed suddenly on the bedside table, shattering my reverie and sending a jolt through me. It was a message from my husband asking if I wanted coffee before he left for work. His mundane routine felt like another layer added to my already complicated existence. I typed back a quick response, sure, then tossed my phone aside as if it burned me. The day stretched ahead like an endless road filled with obstacles waiting to trip me up at every turn. I forced myself to shower and dress while replaying last night's moments in my mind, the way his laughter wrapped around me like a warm blanket in contrast to the chill of reality pressing down outside our bubble. As I made my way downstairs, thoughts spiraled further into chaos. What would happen if anyone found out? The shame alone could swallow me whole. Society wouldn't understand this bond forged in darkness. Morning, he greeted as he entered the kitchen with his usual cheerful demeanor. Morning, I replied mechanically while pouring coffee into 2 mugs, one for him and one for myself. He chatted about his plans for the day while I nodded along absent-mindedly, struggling against rising waves of emotion threatening to drown me again. His voice sounded distant as if coming from underwater. All I could think about was how different life felt just hours ago. "Are you okay?" he asked suddenly, concern etching lines across his forehead. "Yeah," I managed to say too quickly before forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. The conversation shifted back toward mundane topics, work schedules and errands, but beneath it all lingered an unspoken tension that clung heavily between us like fog refusing to lift after dawn breaks. After he left for work, silence enveloped our home once more, a stark contrast from last night's vibrancy filled with laughter and whispered secrets shared under candlelight. Time crawled by as thoughts swirled endlessly around unanswered questions. What did last night mean? Was it merely an escape or something deeper? I picked up the drawing again and stared at it intently until tears blurred its edges, a physical manifestation of everything bottled inside me screaming for release yet terrified of what might come next should those feelings be unleashed into daylight once more. As afternoon rolled around without any sign of him returning home early or reaching out through messages or calls, a new wave washed over me. Loneliness mingled with longing became almost unbearable now that reality settled back into place around familiar routines previously taken for granted. The sun dipped lower in the sky as evening approached. Shadows began creeping back into corners where light dared not venture anymore, a reminder that darkness always lurked nearby waiting patiently for its chance to reclaim what belonged within its domain once more. A soft knock at the door startled me from thoughts spiraling downward again. Hope flickered briefly before being snuffed out by cautious realism reminding me this wasn't some fairy tale ending waiting just outside those wooden panels separating 2 worlds forever changed by choices made during fleeting hours spent together wrapped tightly within darkness embrace offering solace sought after desperately yet fraught consequences looming large just outside waiting patiently strike when least expected catch unaware. With trembling hands gripping tightly onto door handle, I hesitated momentarily contemplating whether opening it would bring relief or further turmoil crashing down upon fragile heart already battered by conflicting emotions swirling wildly inside. A decision loomed heavily before taking breath-stealing resolve pushing forward toward uncertainty lying beyond threshold separating 2 realms forever altered. The door creaked open, revealing only the dim light of morning filtering through the curtains. I stood frozen, caught between the remnants of a night filled with whispered secrets and the stark reality of my life. The drawing lay on the table, an unexpected reminder of everything that had transpired and all that had yet to be confronted. My heart raced as I stepped closer to it, tracing the lines with trembling fingers. The image was simple yet profound, a silhouette of two figures entwined beneath a canopy of stars. It captured a moment that felt both beautiful and forbidden, a representation of desires I had kept hidden for far too long. I could almost hear his laughter echoing in my mind, a sound that had seemed so alive in the darkness, now haunting me in this quiet morning. I glanced at the clock on the wall. Time moved relentlessly forward, indifferent to my turmoil. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the room, illuminating every corner where secrets lurked. My marriage loomed large in my thoughts like an unwelcome guest. Its weight pressed down on me, reminding me of promises made and dreams deferred. The silence was deafening as I sank into a chair, feeling its familiar contours envelop me like an old friend. Yet there was nothing comforting about it now, it felt like a trap. I thought about my husband, his routine, his unyielding presence, and how he would return home soon, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. What would I say? How could I explain this newfound longing? The guilt twisted within me like a vine choking a flower. It was suffocating yet strangely intoxicating. My mind wandered back to our shared moments in darkness, the laughter, the tenderness that had blossomed amidst shadows. Each memory felt like a betrayal layered over years spent suppressing my own desires for stability and acceptance. I picked up the drawing again and studied it closely. There was something liberating about it, an acknowledgement of feelings I had tried so hard to bury. But what did it mean? Did he see me as more than just his mother? Or was this merely an escape from our mundane realities? The questions swirled around me like leaves caught in an autumn gust. The sound of tires crunching on gravel outside jolted me from my reverie. Panic surged through my veins as I realized my husband must be home sooner than expected. He would walk through that door any moment now, unaware of the chaos brewing within our home, the chaos he had unknowingly contributed to by being absent emotionally for so long. I hurriedly tucked the drawing beneath a stack of magazines on the table, hoping to conceal evidence of what felt like treachery even though it was merely an expression of emotions left unvoiced for years. As I straightened up and took a deep breath to steady myself, another part of me recoiled at the thought of hiding anything from him, yet how could I reveal this? The door swung open with a creak that echoed through my chest. He stepped inside, shaking off droplets from his morning run while greeting me with his usual casual smile, a smile that had once brought warmth but now felt distant and foreign. "Morning," he said lightly before heading toward the kitchen. "Morning," I managed to reply, feeling hollow as we exchanged pleasantries devoid of any real connection. He poured himself coffee while I watched him move about mechanically, pouring milk into his cup just so, adjusting his glasses before taking a sip as if nothing had changed overnight. But everything had changed. Nothing could ever be the same again after what happened in those fleeting hours spent wrapped in darkness. "Did you sleep well?" he asked absent-mindedly while rifling through papers on the counter. "Fine," I replied too quickly. There was no point in lying when we both knew better than that. He nodded but didn't pursue further conversation. Instead, he turned toward me with eyes searching for something beyond mere words, a connection perhaps, but found only uncertainty reflected back at him. As he moved past me toward our shared living space filled with remnants of lives intertwined yet separate, I felt trapped between two worlds, one steeped in familiarity and obligation while another beckoned with possibilities fraught with risk and uncertainty. "Are you okay?" His voice broke through my thoughts unexpectedly. Soft concern laced within those three simple words sent shivers down my spine as if he sensed something deeper lurking beneath surface appearances. "I'm fine," came out sharper than intended. Perhaps defensiveness seeped into tone without conscious awareness, a reaction born from fear rather than truthfulness regarding feelings swirling within heart's secret chambers, longing for release but shackled by societal expectations demanding conformity above all else. He regarded me carefully, then shrugged off whatever unease lingered between us before returning focus back onto mundane tasks awaiting attention, papers needing sorting or bills requiring payment. All reminders life continued onward regardless, emotional storms brewing beneath surface calmness masking turbulent waters roiling just outside waiting patiently strike when least expected catch unaware. As minutes bled into one another punctuated only by sounds kitchen appliances whirring softly around us, each tick-tock echoed louder against silence growing thicker around us. I wrestled internally between desire for honesty versus fear consequences honesty might unleash across fragile fabric woven together over years spent navigating complexities marriage often demanded without question or hesitation until now. Then suddenly realization struck like lightning illuminating darkened skies. Avoidance deepened turmoil rather than alleviating pain carried silently within heart-yearning connection denied far too long. With newfound clarity igniting resolve buried beneath layers self-doubt, I stood up abruptly breaking spell cast upon room-heavy stillness suffocating air around us thickening shadows creeping ever closer threatening consume everything once cherished leaving behind only emptiness where love should flourish instead. I need to talk. My voice rang out clear despite tremors coursing through body betraying vulnerability exposed raw beneath layers armor built over years spent shielding heart from hurtful truths lingering unspoken between us often drowned out by routine distractions filling lives meant connect deeply instead drifting apart silently without notice until now. His gaze shifted towards mine meeting eyes searching depths hidden away behind walls fortified against disappointment built brick by brick throughout years spent navigating life together navigating challenges faced alongside each other often forgetting importance. Nurturing bond forged initially under bright skies before clouds rolled and casting shadows upon bright days fading slowly into twilight. What is it? His brow furrowed slightly indicating genuine concern breaking through facade nonchalance adopted long ago shielding vulnerability exposed raw beneath layers armor built over years spent shielding heart from hurtful truths lingering unspoken between us often drowned out by routine distractions filling lives meant connect deeply instead drifting apart silently without notice until now. Words faltered momentarily caught off guard by gravity situation unfolding before us threatening unravel everything carefully constructed facade held tightly together until this very moment poised teeter precariously atop precipice unknown future waiting. Eagerly embrace whatever lies beyond horizon beckoning brightly illuminated path leading somewhere new altogether unlike anything experienced previously. But before could gather thoughts coalesce into coherent expression encapsulating complexity emotions swirling inside suddenly memories flooded back unbidden capturing essence fleeting moments shared under cloaked darkness illuminating hidden desires. Ignited spark flickering flame growing steadily brighter urging forth courage needed confront truth buried deep within soul yearning liberation denied far too long. The cafe buzzed with the hum of conversation, the clinking of cups, and the rich aroma of coffee swirling in the air. I sat at a small table near the window, my hands wrapped around a warm mug, yet feeling colder than ever. Outside, the vibrant colors of fall leaves danced in the breeze, a stark contrast to the turmoil within me. I watched as familiar faces moved about, laughter spilling into the crisp air, while I remained tethered to my thoughts. Each glance from nearby patrons felt like an accusation. Their eyes flickered over me with a mix of curiosity and judgment. Did they sense my secret? The weight of it pressed heavily on my chest as I recalled the stolen moments spent in darkness. The laughter that had once echoed in my living room now haunted me here, mingling with the mundane chatter around me. A couple at a nearby table caught my attention. They leaned into each other, sharing whispers and laughter that filled their corner with warmth. I envied their connection, their ease with one another. It was everything I craved yet felt so far removed from. My marriage had become a series of polite exchanges and unspoken resentments. It lacked the spark that once ignited our lives together. As I took another sip from my mug, memories flooded back, his laughter cutting through the silence of our home during that blackout. The way we kissed felt like an awakening from a long slumber. Yet here I was, battling guilt and shame while others seemed to embrace their relationships without hesitation. I glanced at my phone resting on the table, its screen dark and silent, a reminder of how disconnected I had become from everything familiar yet suffocatingly safe. A notification chimed softly. It was a message from him, my son, asking if we could meet later to talk about school projects. A knot tightened in my stomach as uncertainty washed over me. What would we talk about? How could I face him after everything? The drawing he left behind haunted me still. It captured not just his artistry but also my hidden desires laid bare on paper. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a reflection of what lay beneath my carefully constructed life. The door swung open, pulling me from my reverie as a chill swept through the cafe. He entered with an easy smile that momentarily lit up his face before fading into something more serious upon spotting me. Our eyes met briefly before he approached, his casual demeanor belying the tension between us. "Hey," he said softly as he slid into the chair opposite mine. "Hi," I managed to reply, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my lips. An awkward silence settled between us as we exchanged glances laden with unspoken words. My heart raced as I grappled with what lay ahead, the conversation we needed to have but couldn't quite articulate. "I've been thinking about everything," he began hesitantly, his fingers tracing patterns on the tabletop. "Me too," I replied, surprised by how easily those words slipped out despite the weight they carried. His gaze fell to his hands for a moment before lifting again to meet mine. "Do you think things can go back to how they were?" The question hung heavily between us like fog rolling over a lake, dense and obscuring clarity. Could we really return to innocence after stepping into this murky territory? "I don't know," I admitted finally, feeling vulnerable under his scrutiny. His expression shifted slightly. There was understanding there but also something deeper, a flicker of longing mixed with fear mirrored in my own heart. "I miss you," he confessed softly. My breath caught in my throat. Those words stirred something inside me, a mix of warmth and dread swirling together like autumn leaves caught in an unexpected gust of wind. "I miss you too," I whispered back before realizing how dangerous such admissions could be. He smiled faintly but didn't speak again for several moments as if weighing his next words carefully against potential fallout. "What if we just ignored everything else for now?" His eyes searched mine earnestly. Ignoring everything else felt impossible yet enticing all at once, a chance to escape reality's clutches even if only for a fleeting moment amidst this chaos surrounding us both. Before I could respond, an older woman seated nearby turned her head sharply toward our table. Her piercing gaze lingered on us longer than comfortable before she turned away again, whispering something to her companion who shot us curious glances as well. Heat rushed to my cheeks as embarrassment washed over me like cold water splashing against bare skin on an early morning, exposed and vulnerable under scrutiny that felt unwarranted yet necessary somehow in this tight-knit community where secrets rarely stayed buried for long. "Maybe we should go somewhere else?" he suggested quietly after sensing my discomfort radiating outward like ripples across still water disturbed by unseen forces lurking beneath its surface. "Yeah, maybe," came out barely above a whisper while dread coiled tighter around me. The thought of being seen together outside these four walls sent chills down my spine despite wanting nothing more than freedom from judgmental gazes weighing heavy upon us both here among familiar faces turned strangers overnight due circumstances beyond our control. As we gathered ourselves to leave behind this haven-turned prison cell filled only with echoes haunting memories shared between shadows cast by flickering candlelight illuminating paths once taken but now obscured by uncertainty lingering thickly in air surrounding us. Just then another figure entered, the unmistakable silhouette belonging solely to him, the man who had been absent during all these tumultuous moments yet somehow remained present within every thought spiraling endlessly through mind. My husband stepped through that door with purpose evident etched deeply across features worn down by time spent apart chasing dreams lost somewhere along way leading nowhere fast. Yet here stood poised ready confront whatever awaited him beyond threshold crossing line drawn clearly defining boundaries now blurred beyond recognition threatening unravel everything left intact thus far. The tension grew palpable as he approached our table. Confusion mingled with fear swirled within me while watching two worlds collide right before eyes unable look away despite desire lingering deep inside wishing escape route existed leading away from confrontation looming ever closer each passing heartbeat echoing louder reminding me choices made would determine fate awaiting all three entangled within web-spun intricately woven strands binding tightly together regardless intentions laid bare. Exposed under harsh light revealing truths hidden long enough now threatening break free. I held my breath waiting for impact while silently praying whatever unfolded next wouldn't shatter fragile balance precariously maintained until this very moment. The air in the cafe was thick with unspoken words as I sat at the table, my husband's presence a stark reminder of the life I had built. He looked different today. His usual confident demeanor replaced by a vulnerability that caught me off guard. The way he fidgeted with his coffee cup and avoided eye contact hinted at something brewing beneath the surface, something we had both been too afraid to address. "Are you okay?" I asked, breaking the silence that stretched between us like a chasm. My voice felt foreign, almost hesitant as if I had forgotten how to engage in simple conversation. He glanced up, surprise flickering across his face before he sighed deeply. "I've been thinking," he started slowly, choosing his words with care. "About us. About everything." My heart raced at the implication of his words. This was the moment we had both been avoiding for too long. The darkness from our home had seeped into our marriage, and now here we were, surrounded by the warm glow of morning light, ready to confront what lay beneath. "I feel disconnected," he admitted finally. "Like we're just going through the motions." His gaze dropped back to his coffee cup, and I could see the weight of regret etched on his features. The confession hit me hard. I had spent so much time grappling with my own feelings for our son that I hadn't fully acknowledged my husband's struggles. The guilt surged again, twisting in my stomach like a knife. Perhaps it was easier to focus on my own turmoil than to confront the reality of our marriage. "What do you mean?" I asked softly, searching for clarity in his eyes. He hesitated before speaking again. "We don't talk anymore. We don't connect." His voice cracked slightly as he continued, "I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in his words struck a chord within me. Here was a man who cared deeply yet felt lost in our shared silence. It mirrored my own feelings of isolation but also opened a door I hadn't considered before. Perhaps there was still hope for us if we could find a way back to each other. "I've felt it too," I confessed quietly, feeling an unexpected rush of relief wash over me as I voiced my truth. "But it's hard to know where to start." He nodded slowly, relief mingling with uncertainty in his expression. "Maybe we can try? Talk more? Be honest?" As he spoke those words, I couldn't shake the image of our son from my mind, the warmth of that night enveloping us during the blackout still fresh and vivid despite the light flooding this space now. The contrast left me feeling torn between two lives, one filled with longing and another anchored by commitment. "I want that," I said finally, committing myself to this conversation even as shadows lingered at the edges of my thoughts. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen area behind us, a clattering sound that startled both of us from our momentary connection. We turned instinctively toward the noise. It seemed like an unwelcome interruption of what felt like progress. "Everything okay back there?" my husband called out lightly, attempting to ease the tension that hung around us like an unwelcome fog. A waitress emerged from behind the counter looking flustered but smiled reassuringly at us before returning her attention elsewhere. "Just a little mishap," she replied cheerfully enough, but her eyes darted nervously around as if she feared further accidents were imminent. My husband chuckled softly at her reaction. It reminded him of how easily chaos could disrupt even mundane moments much like our lives together had become chaotic under layers of unspoken grievances and hidden desires. I guess life has its way of reminding us not to take things for granted, he mused thoughtfully after a moment's pause. His words resonated deeply within me. They echoed everything swirling inside, a desire for honesty clashing against fear of what revealing truths might unravel. As we resumed our conversation about reconnecting and rebuilding trust between us, somewhere deep inside me lingered another truth. I was still haunted by memories shared under candlelight, moments filled with intimacy that transcended mere physicality yet demanded acknowledgement amidst all this unfolding chaos. What would happen if I chose honesty? Would it shatter everything? Or could it lead us toward healing? The questions spiraled relentlessly as we spoke about plans for dinner later that week, an attempt at rekindling something long extinguished, but every word felt heavy with implications unspoken yet palpable beneath each syllable exchanged between us. Hours passed until finally we parted ways outside, sunlight filtered through trees lining streets leading back home while autumn leaves danced playfully around us. A reminder that change was inevitable yet beautiful even when tinged with sadness lingering beneath each vibrant hue surrounding this quaint town known for its annual fall festival drawing people together year after year despite underlying tensions often left unresolved. Returning home felt surreal. Shadows loomed larger than ever before as memories flooded back, the drawing left behind haunting me still. Its lines echoing desires buried deep within me now surfacing alongside feelings long suppressed threatening to break free once again. I stepped into darkness momentarily alone. Silence enveloped me while contemplating choices made leading up until now. Could honesty truly pave pathways toward redemption, or would it only serve as fuel igniting fires already burning bright beneath surface? As evening fell once more bringing chill along with dusk settling gently outside windows framing familiar scenes transformed into something altogether different, I sensed change looming closer than ever before. Would tomorrow bring clarity or confusion? Would facing truths lead toward liberation or deeper entanglement within webs spun tighter than imagined? With these questions circling endlessly through mind racing faster than heart pounding against chest, I resolved then amid flickering shadows dancing across walls whispering secrets yearning escape. Whatever lay ahead must be faced head-on without hesitation. And just as certainty began taking root within me, a sudden knock shattered stillness reverberating through hallways echoing louder than heartbeat racing toward unknown consequences awaiting beyond threshold standing between past choices made and future yet unwritten. As the knock echoed through the stillness, I hesitated, frozen in place. The weight of my choices pressed heavily against my chest, a reminder of everything I had been avoiding. I took a deep breath, steadying myself before moving toward the door. Each step felt like a journey through a fog of uncertainty, and I braced for whatever awaited me on the other side. I opened the door cautiously, revealing my husband standing there, his face partially obscured by shadows. He looked weary, lines etched deeper than I remembered. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Now?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. "Please." His plea tugged at something inside me, a flicker of concern mingled with apprehension. I nodded and stepped aside to let him in. The dim light from the living room cast elongated shadows around us as he crossed the threshold. We stood apart for a moment, an invisible barrier between us that felt insurmountable. "I've been thinking," he began, running a hand through his hair in that familiar gesture of frustration. "About us." "Us?" The word felt foreign on my tongue, like an echo of what once was but no longer existed. "Yes," he said firmly. "Things have been off for a while now. I can feel it." He searched my eyes for something, understanding perhaps, or maybe an acknowledgement of our shared discontent. "I don't know what you mean," I replied too quickly, defensive instincts kicking in despite my desire for honesty. He sighed deeply, as if carrying the weight of unspoken words. "You do know. We're drifting apart. You spend more time lost in your thoughts than with me." The accusation pierced through layers of denial I had carefully constructed. "It's just, life has been busy," I managed to say, but even as the words left my lips, they felt hollow. He stepped closer then, closing that gap between us just enough to make my heart race with anxiety and guilt alike. "Busy? Or is it something else? Are you unhappy?" The question hung heavily between us. It was both simple and complex at once. My mind raced back to moments spent in darkness, where connection felt so real yet so wrong, and how they contrasted sharply with this moment filled with harsh light and reality. "I'm fine," I insisted weakly, but even as I spoke, doubt flickered within me like the dying flame of a candle. "Fine isn't good enough anymore," he said quietly but firmly. "We can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's not." His honesty struck me like lightning. It illuminated parts of our relationship that had long remained shrouded in shadows. For so long, we had lived parallel lives under one roof, two strangers wearing masks crafted from obligation and routine. "What do you want from me?" My voice trembled slightly as vulnerability seeped into my words. "Just, be honest with yourself first," he replied softly. "And then be honest with me." In that moment of raw exposure, clarity washed over me like a cold wave crashing against warm sand. I could no longer hide from what lay beneath the surface of our marriage or the secret desires that twisted within me like vines choking out sunlight. "I can't keep living this way," I confessed finally. Each word felt liberating yet terrifying, as if shedding layers of skin to reveal something raw and unprotected beneath. He nodded slowly but didn't respond immediately. Instead, he seemed to process my admission, a mixture of relief and fear flickering across his features before settling into resignation. And then came another knock at the door, this time louder and more insistent than before, shattering our fragile moment once again. "What now?" My heart sank at the interruption. This wasn't how I envisioned this conversation unfolding. My husband glanced toward the door before meeting my gaze again with concern etched across his brow. "Should we answer it?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore whoever was on the other side, to stay cocooned within this moment where truth hung heavy between us, but another part urged caution. Perhaps we couldn't afford to close ourselves off any longer. With a resigned sigh, I moved toward the door once more and opened it wide enough to reveal two faces peering back at us, neighbors from down the street who looked anxious and out of breath. "We're sorry to intrude," one said quickly, their urgency palpable, but their presence felt like an unwelcome intrusion into our fragile space filled with unspoken truths waiting to be voiced aloud. "What's wrong?" My voice held an edge now as worry crept into my heart once again. Their expressions told me something was amiss beyond mere neighborly pleasantries. "There's been an accident at the festival," they explained hurriedly, their words tumbling over one another in haste. "A fire broke out near the main stage." Panic surged through me instantly. Thoughts raced back to my son who was supposed to be there among friends enjoying festivities meant to celebrate community rather than chaos unfolding within its heart. "Is everyone okay?" The question slipped from my lips before I could catch it. Dread clawed at my insides as visions flashed through my mind, of laughter replaced by screams echoing amidst flames licking skyward under autumn stars now obscured by smoke billowing outward like dark clouds threatening stormy skies ahead. "We don't know yet," they admitted solemnly before continuing on about evacuations underway while urging neighbors nearby towards safety away from danger looming ever closer now threatening everything we held dear, including connections forged through love tested by trials faced together over years spent navigating life's unpredictable twists along paths fraught with uncertainty leading nowhere certain beyond present moment casting shadows upon future yet unwritten. As they spoke rapidly about details fading into background noise around rising tide emotions swelling within, I found myself grasping tightly onto fleeting moments shared earlier just moments ago still lingering sweetly upon lips yet turning bitter now souring memories made amidst darkness giving way once more unto light illuminating paths diverging ahead pulling Apart threads woven tightly until now binding lives together, unraveling slowly thread by fragile thread, leaving behind only remnants. Scattered across ground beneath feet, standing uncertain, waiting breathlessly, wondering what consequences awaited beyond horizons stretching endlessly onward. The festival was supposed to signify new beginnings, a chance for joy amid decay, but instead loomed ominous, now casting shadow over everything we thought we knew about ourselves, about love, and about what it truly meant to be free.